Good evening, folks. I see folks are coming on right now. We're on with Ryan Grimm, journalist, who we're going to talk about Gaza and the devastation there tonight. And I will let others join. Looks like folks are coming on now. So good evening, everybody. We're just waiting until folks get settled in a little bit. So as a run-up to our discussion tonight, I have Ryan Grimm, esteemed author, journalist, managing editor of Drop Site News, co-host on Counterpoints, a great show that really discusses hard topics, and an extraordinary author. And we'll talk about all of that good work tonight. But the most important topic for tonight is Gaza and the genocide in Gaza and the wake-up call to Americans to demand peace. And I talk about this topic with a lot of heart, as does Ryan. And Ryan has yet a deeper perspective on this and some more expertise than I do, but he also has a great deal of connection to things going on the ground, minute by minute, hour by hour. And if you follow his Substack, either Drop Site or The Intercept or Ryan Grimm on Substack, you'll see it's just a prolific amount of information about the Middle East. And of course, he covers other things as well, everything from the economy to Trump to over to Ukraine. But really knowledgeable in the Israel and Palestine space, which is why I wanted him to join us tonight. So with that, good evening, everyone. Marie Newman here to talk with Ryan Grimm. I'm going to introduce him in just a moment. For everybody that's just coming on now, we're here to talk about Gaza and the genocide. And how deeply devastating it is, and the need for this country to really wake up and understand as parents that kids are starving. They're being starved deliberately and strategically. The Israeli government has announced and proclaimed that they are doing ethnic cleansing and that they want to extract all the land. So for folks that are just coming on, tonight, the goal of this is to help give everybody some frame of reference and some context on why this is an international issue, but very much an American issue. Because honestly, at this point, Bibi Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, is no different than Putin. He's on the march, folks. Do you think he's going to stop with Gaza? That you are very delusional. He wants as much land and power as he can have. And he wants to extend the war because if he doesn't, he's very corrupt and has been charged with any number of things in his own country. And then further, the ICC, the International Criminal Court, has charged him with war crimes. So little bit of background. I'm going to introduce my friend Ryan Grimm. Great author, has several books out. Most recently, The Squad. I recommend it highly. Very interesting reading. But he is also managing editor at Drop Site News on Substack, does several, and he has some adorable kids in the background. There we go.
Yes.
And I might have a beagle that jumps in and gives an opinion. So,
Sydney, I'm downstairs.
I remember
doing
those
an
days.
Interview.
Folks.
I need a couple minutes. Thank you.
All right. So
he's gonna be home soon, like 8:30.
Awesome. So Gaza. Ryan, thank you for joining us tonight. I'm just going to do a quick set of bullets and facts, and then you're going to dive in and give us an elaborate detail around what's going on right now. So the run-up to all this, folks, is for decades now, Palestine has been under occupation, and that's what you think it is. It's a military term, means where big dudes with big guns govern your life, that there's blockades, there's checkpoints. And for decades now, the Palestinians have had just a few hours a day of water, a few hours a day of utilities, a few hours a day of medical supplies that go through. So everything is cordoned off, and they truly live under occupation at all times. That's the run-up to October 7th. October 7th, Hamas, a terrorist group not related to, and as just to clarify, Hamas is not Palestine. Hamas is not the Palestinians. They have nothing to do with one another. Hamas is a terrorist group. They attack the Israelis, kill 1,200 people, and take 251 hostages. Horrifying, terrible, evil, right? From there, it evolves into a war right away, and the Palestinians are caught in the middle, particularly in Gaza. And so at this point, I think, and Brian can update it, but I think we're at 60,000 dead, at least
Yeah,
most
although
humanitarian aid folks. And then
yeah,
I'll let him take it from here and tell us where we're at, what you're seeing in detail.
although I think it's worth putting context around, because we often see people say that 1,200 people were killed on um, October 7th. People can find the latest numbers, but I think close to 700, close to 700 were security services. Several, there may have been several hundred more who were armed and engaged in combat who do security,
Right.
as part of like kind of civil service to like defense teams around
Sure.
kibbutz or so
Yep.
forth. We untold numbers were killed by Israel. That we also know. If you look at you could it has been widely reported in the Israeli press that they indiscriminately attacked any vehicle that was heading from the desert there back into Gaza. So
So it was. So to be clear, it was friendly fire, Israeli to Israeli, in some instances during that
yeah,
horrible attack. Got it.
right. But and no doubt, so, hundreds of civilians were killed as well, which is a war crime.
Yeah.
And I think I wonder how history would have been different had the rave not gone that extra night that it went. That rave where I think more than 200 attendees were killed, and many were taken hostage.
Yeah.
Was supposed to end on Friday night. Like Friday was supposed to be the last day of it, and they put in for a request to go one more night because everybody was having a good time. They wanted to.
Right.
Nobody wants the party to end, and that request had to go to the IDF because it was happening just a mile or so outside of the Gaza fence. And so, at the same time that the IDF is having all night long meetings about the warnings that are coming from Gaza, they're getting they have infiltrators that are telling them that something might be up. They're seeing things that might be happening. I remember the weekend before this happened, or 4 days before, so it happened, October 3rd or 4th. You could check my Twitter feed. Hamas released tons of balloons out of Gaza, and a journalist in Gaza who I know filmed it and posted it on Twitter, and I shared it at the time. It's like, this is weird. Like what? This is very strange. So from my basement in Washington D.C., you could see in the lead up that something was going on, and it remains a horrifying tragedy that rave was approved for another night. All of those, hundreds of people would have survived. They would have just gotten in their cars Friday morning, Friday afternoon, whenever they woke up, and gone home, and they would not have been there. And Hamas and the other resistance factions have said in interviews since then that they were utterly shocked to find this. They did not know this event was going on, and all of a sudden they see all these young people in 20s in this field.
Yeah.
I think it also played into the subsequent coverage about sexual assault, because you had hundreds of men and women who were dressed as one is at a rave.
Yeah.
And so you
Young
see all
people.
these images, and so then people just assume, oh, well, the worst must have happened, without any evidence that did happen. And so I think it fed into that as well. So I've always wondered what the history would have been like if somebody had said, no, of course we're not approving this for another night, given everything that we know. It's just completely unsafe. But that's not what happened. Here we are, nearly 2 years later, and all of the promises that top Israeli officials made in the weeks after October 7th, 2023, have been carried out, like to the letter. If you went in October of 2023 with the most vulgar, worst case scenario assumption of what the Israeli government was going to do, you would have been either dead on or slightly underestimated what the response has been so far. So the latest is that Netanyahu is now claiming he's going to, fully occupy Gaza. Donald Trump is saying that the United States is going to support "quote unquote" aid distribution, which are in fact just daily massacres of people seeking aid, and not remotely bringing in the amount of aid that is needed for even a fraction of the population. And so I don't see how Netanyahu's threat is a serious one in the sense that they don't have the capacity. I don't believe, to fully occupy Gaza. Like they go into towns and flatten them,
Right.
and then leave, because if they stay, resistance fighters are popping up out of tunnels,
Right.
and attacking their tanks, and there's no limit to the amount of weapons that Hamas has at its disposal, because they rely primarily on unexploded Israeli ordnance, and Israel has dropped several times Hiroshima worth of ordnance on Gaza, and a significant portion of that, we don't know, but it's somewhere. It's often at least a couple percent. It can be as high as 10 to 15% are duds. They land and they land and they don't explode.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're dropping bombs on what in the weapons industry they would call not ideal conditions, in other words, civilians and rubble and tents, you're going to get a failure rate that's higher than the average would be in a battlefield.
Ryan, can I interject and explain to us? You have a dead coming down next to 10 tents. When it's a dud, though, it's still precarious, right? And it's technically could be live at some point. So how is it that what happens to that dud? Who comes and scoops it up, and then who, quote unquote, revives it and makes it usable? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I actually spoke with a top UN official who was tasked with this job after the 2014 war, and it's all he did. He and a big team went from house to house, and he described one, for instance, where it was a 3-story house, and it had come through the roof, through every other floor, and into the kitchen, and smashed through the kitchen tiles, but did not explode. And he said that, ironically, these bombs are quite stable as long as you don't mess with them. Like, it could live there forever.
Interesting.
But of course, to reconstruct a home, you have to mess with it. Yeah. Like, you can't just live with the bomb in your kitchen.
Right.
And just one bomb could take them weeks, because you have to make room to get it out. Now, Israel has demolished pretty much every building, so that part doesn't have to be done anymore. But you have to be methodical. A bulldozer hitting it can set it off. Right. So you have to be very careful. He said on one occasion, after they had spent a couple of weeks getting this massive bomb onto their trucks and rolling out, their convoy was actually intercepted by what he believed to be Hamas. And so Hamas then takes this unexploded ordnance and brings it to an underground factory. Okay. And they have engineers who understand how to dismantle it without blowing themselves up. And they take small pieces. Let's say it's a 2,000-pound bomb. It's an enormous amount of material. So they take small pieces of it and put it into those. If you ever have seen the videos on Telegram or elsewhere of the RPGs, where they're shooting at tanks, or those little well, I don't know, whatever you call them, where they just drop it on the side of, they stick it on a tank and then run. Right. That takes a very small amount of explosive. Right. And so, ironically, if Israel had not spent the last 2 years carpet bombing the entire Gaza Strip, Hamas would probably be out of ammunition at this point. So this very much answers a question I've had. So thank you for that. That how is it that Hamas continues to get weaponry when no one else can get anything else from the sky? Yeah, right. And literally, and they're
being very resourceful. So
Mhm.
so that tells us how Hamas is continuing.
And so the point, the
Yeah.
strategic point there is, how is Netanyahu going to maintain an occupation under those
Right.
conditions?
It's untenable.
Unless he would have to
Yeah.
depopulate the area
Yeah.
completely.
Well, I think that's
Which
the real strategy.
right.
I
And
think
how does
that,
he do that?
yeah, I'm just saying that I think that's the real
Yeah. No,
strategy.
I think it is too, but
Yeah,
I don't think they have a step.
realistically, yeah,
Right.
I don't think that's even attainable, but that is his strategy. I mean, let's just count the ways in which he has said that I'm going to get rid of all the population. We're doing a formal evacuation of all peoples. We are flattening. We are going to get rid of all of Hamas, which really means we're going to get rid of Palestine, even though Hamas and Palestine are not related. So now let's just take a
one point that
sure.
I haven't seen anybody bring up, but you've already seen the birth rate fall by, I think, 50% compared to, pre October 7th, for obvious reasons. Like, it's almost surprising it's not more. Just the
Right.
idea. I think there's always hope that this can't go on forever, and life must go on. So that would explain it, why there's some reproduction. The consequence of malnutrition at this level is infertility.
Yeah. Yeah. For
And
generations, by the way.
for generations.
This has folks, just a quick aside. Not only is the trauma and the PTSD imprinted on a people's central nervous system, it's a physicality in addition to an emotional response. And then that, just like it has happened for Russians and for Jews in Nazi Germany, it is a generational effect on one's central nervous system. So and on their reproductive abilities, et cetera,
Yeah.
et cetera. It goes on forever.
Yeah. So prolonged malnutrition of this sort. So if you're 10 years old and you survive, if you're 20 years old and you survive the chance that you'll be able to conceive a child in the future is massively diminished.
Yeah.
By the amount of starvation and malnutrition that you're undergoing. And I have a hard time believing that's just a coincidence. Like, that has to be a feature of the.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's
Israel
a
has talked
sub-strategy
repeatedly about the population problem, that the birth rate of Palestinians, that is their problem. Like, that is the fundamental objection they have to their quote unquote neighbors.
Yeah.
That they have a higher birth rate than Jewish Israelis, and that therefore they have this long-term problem. And this appears to be a way to solve that.
Ryan, let's take a step back. I want you to share with our viewers what it's like, what purposeful starvation looks like and feels like on the ground. And tell us a little bit, just a quick context note, folks. Starvation started to happen around the first of the year. It was a slow mounting campaign that right around February, March, it went full on. So can you tell us from that point on how this starvation, this purposeful and deliberate starvation of the people is working? Tell us physically how it's working.
Yeah. And interestingly, there have been previous waves where the Ministry of Health reported deaths by starvation and malnutrition because this has been a cat and mouse game that Israel has played, starting very early on. If you remember, immediately they cut off all aid and said that no food, water, electricity, anything would be going in. And the Biden administration would always talk about how much pressure they were putting on Israel to get the aid in. And actually, okay, now we see what they do without whatever little pressure was being put on them. So you can actually see, like, okay, yeah, they were putting a little bit of pressure. Now they should have ended this. Like, they should never have given Trump the opportunity to do what he's doing now. That aside, so there were moments where particularly in the north, where Israel attempted this before the first ceasefire, they attempted this cutoff of the entire north of the Gaza Strip. It always revolved around militarization of aid distribution. If you remember the infamous flour massacre?
Yeah.
There had been no aid for a very long time that had gotten into the north of Gaza. And then under enormous pressure from the Biden administration, they allowed they allowed these trucks to go in, but they brought because they had created difficult conditions by depriving the population for so long. But they brought the IDF and the tanks in with them, and as soon as people swarmed these trucks, the IDF opened fire on them, and it became this massive international incident. And then the IDF responded by saying, "Okay, no more aid for a very long time," and people did die of starvation back in late 2023, early 2024. And then the Biden administration made sure that at least there was a minimal amount getting in at different times, so that deaths by deaths by malnourishment and malnutrition. Because if you think about just the people in your life, there are just so many people that need regular health care.
Yeah,
they may need insulin. They may need medication for cerebral palsy. They may need everybody's not a healthy adult who can accept all the depredations and the suffering and just go on. So we've had that through the entire time. But I mean, the way people describe it is just your mind kind of can't think of anything else.
Right.
And your body shuts down.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually then you don't have the strength to even attempt. And you see people passing out on the walls of the hospitals. And then just kind of simply physically unable to move. And then your body, in order to stay alive, begins, eating away at your own organs.
Right.
And when you get to that phase, you need specific types of nutrition. Like your body at that point rejects regular food. And so unless you surged in very specific types of treatments for malnutrition, the people there who are now numbering in the tens of thousands who are at this stage aren't going to make it on this Gaza Humanitarian Foundation box of pasta.
Right.
Or
lentils
lentils. Yeah.
These folks should be clear.
Which you then need boiling water.
Yeah.
And then
which you don't need water.
Else, lentils at least are pretty healthy, but that's not a complete meal.
Right. And some of their bodies, to your point, will reject it. And they should be receiving IVs of saturated calorie nutrients that are specific for this, right? So, or peanut paste or whatever it is, right? All those things should be given to them, and they're not getting that. So,
this is not new science. We know how to do all this.
Oh my gosh, it's since World War I. So to be clear, these folks aren't getting regular food. Let's now talk about the poor folks that are starving and they're crawling to aid sites and then getting shot by IDF. And just as a reminder, Israeli Defense Fund, we frequently say IDF, it's the Israeli Defense Fund. So what's our defense? Sorry.
Oh, forces.
Forces. Sorry. Yeah. So IDF soldiers are killing people on their way to aid. Further and worse and disgusting, they are trapping them. Mm-hmm. So talk about that a little bit.
There used to be 400 aid distribution sites that were serviced by the UN and a constellation of NGOs that worked in coordination. And everybody knew, where they could go for their particular rations, and in their area. You have your name there, and they knew you, and you show up and you get what you need, and you go home. And as a result, if you think about it, you never saw, other than the flour massacre that was engineered by Israel a year and a half ago, you never saw images of anarchy, of people fighting with each other over anything. And in fact, the strength of the civil society in Gaza, which partly is, I think, a function of that so few people can leave, and so everybody it's maybe the most tight-knit place on earth, because imagine, like in contemporary global society, a lot of people are moving around a lot,
Right.
even from town to town. I mean, in Gaza, you can move from town to town, but it's, oftentimes if you're from Khan Yunis, you're going to, and your family's from Khan Yunis, you're going to live in Khan Yunis.
Yeah.
And so everybody knows everybody. And the strength of that civil society withstood all of the assaults on it. You still had people living in dignity and in politely and at peace with each other in the most undignified, horrific conditions, tents,
Yeah.
like living in tents endlessly. Um, and so you only saw the scenes of anarchy after they shut down these 400 aid distribution sites and came in and created 4. So we're going to have 4 sites, and we're going to make you walk, 5 to 10 miles through the desert
Okay.
to get to them. And we're only going to be open for sometimes 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And sometimes we're going to cancel and post on Facebook when you have no signal and you've been walking all night waiting for the sun to rise because you want to be first there because it might only be open for 10 minutes. You don't want to walk 10 miles and come back to your family empty-handed. And so then major, significant crowds form, and they start shooting at the crowds and killing them. And it has had an effect of doing what I think was intended, which is tearing at the social fabric.
Yeah.
And Israel has been very clear that they have been trying to make it so that Hamas is unable to not just perform armed resistance, but to govern the population, to serve as a functioning governing body. The BBC, in what is a deplorable article that they just published today about Hamas stealing aid, which contradicts what Israeli military officials themselves say, that Hamas is not stealing aid. David Satterfield, who was the Biden official, who was once an unindicted co-conspirator for leaking secret information to AIPAC. So it's not a pro-Palestinian guy. Like he was the lead aid organization official for the Biden administration. He said the Israelis in private meetings never even claimed Hamas was stealing aid, let alone provided any evidence. Like that was purely a line and is purely a line that is for public consumption. Like they privately do not believe it and do not even try to claim it. The BBC has an article say that their sources say Hamas does this. Their sources are Israeli officials who are lying. But buried in that article, they also report that the IDF has been targeting systematically anybody who works for Hamas, whose job it is to pay salaries of civil servants. So they try to figure out who those people are and assassinate them. People who are just handing out your paycheck. Like we're not talking about even the minister of finance or anything like that. Not that it would be acceptable to kill a bureaucratic official who's even a senior one, although they do it all the time. But very low level people. Just their job is the clerk whose job it is to hand out, because they want to make it impossible for there to be a functioning civil society, and they want to replace it, as they've also said publicly, with these gangs and drug dealers.
Yeah.
The Abu Shabaab and others who, have been, ISIS has for a while had a significant presence in the Sinai Peninsula, and these gangs had ties with ISIS, and that is preferable to Israel because it's demonic, it's condemnable, it's awful. But they're going to then get involved in the sectional sectarian gang warfare, block to block.
It's another form of cudgel, right? Yeah. It's part of the authoritarian playbook. Trump does this too. Right. It's placing cudgels with bad guys against innocent guys, and then less bad guys, and then worse bad guys. And there's all these cudgels out there till no one trusts anyone.
Right. Right. Then you throw your hands up and say, "Oh, it's so complicated and sad."
It's not.
I wish that there was something we could do,
Yeah.
but oh well, we can't.
So
And
people
then,
are dying. They're starving to death. They're being shot at as they go to aid stations to eat or get their medical supplies or just some water. Right there,
yeah,
there's nowhere for these folks to go. They've killed somewhere between 60 and 100,000 people in Gaza right now. Palestine was in bad straits before all of this happened because the occupation didn't allow for any type of real civil society to happen. Their hospitals were basically, barely functioning before October 7th, and now they're completely decimated. And now we have two authoritarians talking to each other. We have Bibi Netanyahu telling Trump that, oh my gosh, my people, and he doesn't care about his people at all. It's interesting. You know what I've heard 4 times in the last, probably 3 weeks, is that every single hostage family, so family member of a former hostage or a current hostage, calls Bibi Netanyahu Dr. Death. And the reason they call him Dr. Death is that he refuses, and this is very clear even in Israel, he refuses to come to an agreement because he knows that he'll be up for war crimes. So he keeps expanding the war. Again, just like Putin, just like any of these other authoritarians, they want more and more land and more war so that they can stay in power. So at the end of the day, the poor Israelis and the poor Palestinians are in this horrible place. So, Ryan, if we turn the corner and talk about why the U.S. government won't do anything and why we won't stop. We just had a piece of
we're
legislation
doing a
on the
lot.
floor.
Yeah.
We just had a piece of legislation on the floor in the Senate that indicated that we would stop funding Israel, right? 26 Democratic senators. That is a huge record, folks. That is triple the number that used to agree with that. So that was a lot of progress, but it didn't go through. In the House, it was much closer. We got a lot farther with folks wanting to stop bombs and weapons and aid going to Israel. But so we've made progress. But I'm going to let you say it because I'm a little bit biased about why members of Congress are funded the way they are. So I'll let you say it, Ryan. Tell the good folks at home about Democratic Majority for Israel, AIPAC, and pro-Israel funds and why Congress has not spoken up. Go.
Yeah. I mean, you lived it. If you are running for Congress for 99 for almost, even including Rashida Tlaib, their top issue is not Israel-Palestine. Rashida Tlaib's top issue is environmental justice,
Right.
Around the world and particularly in Detroit. She's Palestinian, so people kind of foist that on her, and she obviously has views on it, and a personal connection there. But it's not what she's running on.
Right.
Now, she cares a lot more than others because she has family there.
Right.
Whereas you could tell me, the average rank and file member of Congress, they don't care
Either way
about Azerbaijan, Armenia, Israel, Colombia.
Right.
They want to be in Congress, and then it's like, oh, well, what do I have to care about to be in Congress? But for most of them, some of them came through activism and advocacy, but most of them kind of just ran for middle school president and have been running for things their whole lives. Why are you running for that? They don't know. They genuinely just don't know. It's just what they do.
Yeah.
So then they sit around with consultants, and the consultants say, okay, well, we've heard that AIPAC and DMFI, which is Democratic Majority for Israel, offshoot of AIPAC, are interested in this race, and they're a little bit nervous about you. And the reasons that they might be nervous about a candidate could be as simple as they're black. If they're Arab, good Lord, forget about it.
Right.
If they are progressive, if they've ever been seen with Bernie Sanders or anybody from the squad, they are. John Fetterman was assumed to be by DMFI and AIPAC problematic for them on Israel because he had endorsed Bernie Sanders at one point and was, generally progressive on a lot of other issues.
Right.
They just shoot first, ask questions later.
Right.
And so then you'll be in a meeting of consultants, and I'll say, all right, well, let's hurry up and post I stand with Israel. Let's ask AIPAC and DMFI, give us your questionnaire. Now, what do we have to say on the questionnaire? And this is not even to get money. People think it's to get money.
Yeah.
No. It's to get them to not spend money against you.
Right.
If they can get the money down the road, then they'll all take it for the most part. But this is just about staying alive. Say,
Right.
well, what do I have to say? And with Fetterman, they passed the memo back and forth, the questionnaire back and forth, and DMFI said they sent him edits. This is really good. How about this? He's like, oh, sure, fine, that works. When it comes to Iran, you have to say all options are on the table, and that's code for I'm willing to nuke them.
Yeah.
You have to say something about the Taylor Force Act. Like if just go to everybody's Israel section on their website, something about the Taylor Force Act will be in there. You're like,
or worse, may I just correct that really quickly? Is that you do not find Palestine Israel statements on websites because it is too volatile. I was the only fool for 8 years running. They kept it on my website because I wanted to be honest and transparent. So
what some of them are doing now is it will exist, but you have to know the URL. Like you can't find it by searching for it, or there's no clicking. There's no way to go through the site. But if you have the full URL /Israel or whatever, and then you can send that URL to your friends over in the advocacy world so that you can see it. And you're like, but it's like some city councilman knows about the Taylor Force Act. Like, come on, like how? Right. Like it's the same language on all of it, and so they say that they sign the questionnaire, then you're safe, and then you have to start signing letters, as you know, when you get to Congress. So those are kind of like a roll call in prison.
Yeah.
And so a letter will go around, and it'll be condemning Ilhan Omar for whatever, or it'll be condemning this college student who said this thing.
Right.
And it'll be written to Secretary of Education. You should deport this person.
Right.
And it'll go around, and you better sign that letter. And it's just a little blood oath. It's just the way that you show that, like, you continue to be on side. This is all pre-October 7th stuff.
Right.
Now it's much more out in the open, and the asks are much bigger, and the stakes are as well.
Oh, right. And to be clear,
if you don't do it, then you can get Donna Edwards, for instance. I don't know how much money you got spent. She got $7 million dropped against her.
$2 million.
But $2 million in a small $2 million is like $7 million is waste. You wasted $5 million. Like you can get the same results for $2 million.
They just want to make sure you're dead, right? So if they shoot you 400 times, that's really what this amounts to. And if I may jump in for a second, we talked about the authoritarian playbook. This is the bully playbook. So in Congress, what happens is Democratic majority for Israel and AIPAC and all their offshoots, including 314 Science and all these.
Be up there in a couple minutes.
They will.
I should go after this. Sorry.
Sure. Right. They will threaten you if you don't bow down to them. So that's why people bow down to them. So, Ryan, I have one final question, and then I'm going to let you go. What can average citizens do?
Oh, wait, hold on 1 second.
Sure. Kids are fun.
It's been 40 minutes past your time.
No, it's not true. 5 minutes.
Okay, last question. What can all the good folks on our call tonight do to put pressure on members of Congress and other people and tell the story of Palestine?
I mean, as you know, they do actually listen to calls if it's from a constituent.
Yeah.
They actually, I think, for the most part, do, because they're so obsessive and they're the kind of people we described. Right. They often are following their mentions.
On social. Yeah.
On social media and Facebook and also like in Instagram, like they, believe it or not, they're in there. So that, it's not much, but it's something.
Right.
Right.
Letters, calls, all of that, folks.
Yeah.
It keeps the pressure going. Ryan, I'm going to thank you for being so helpful about helping us understand on the ground there. And we'll be in touch, and we'll have you back on. Hey, folks, have a good evening, and thanks for listening tonight.
Thanks so much for doing this. It was fun.
Okay,
Well,
take
not
care.
fun, but nice to see you.
Good to see you.